Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Annemiek. I'm here with Jenny Ella today, who is a yoga guide, teacher maybe, but we'll talk about that in a moment, and has been for many years. And what we want to talk to you about today is that she shared how she's been holding space for her students for many years. And yet when she started training with the Academy for Soul-Based Coaching, a lot of extra layers and tools have been kind of given to her and that she's found really helpful in her teaching and in her guiding. We should start with this, Jenny. Set me straight. So you're a yoga guide, right?
Yeah, hi Annemiek, hi everybody. Yeah, I would call myself a yoga guide in that I prefer that to calling myself a yoga teacher, because I see my role as less about pushing my teachings onto my clients and more about me guiding them back to their own inner wisdom, their own intuition, to feel from the inside out what's right for him and right for them, and to explore what's going on within them, and practice yoga in that way. So that's really kind of what that's about. But if
Cool.
you call me a yoga teacher, I will still answer you.
I'm happy to
I'm
call
not
you.
rigid.
Yeah. And from what you're sharing, I can immediately understand what drew you to soul-based coaching, by the way, because there's such a big overlap in the way that we approach our coaching. But that maybe is a topic for another time. Yeah. So holding space.
Yeah.
There's could you say something about how you were holding space prior to working with us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Vinyasa yoga teacher, and I'm also a Strala yoga teacher. And certainly, when I trained within Strala, I had a very good grounding in what holding space was about. And I really practiced that a lot and led that way from my classes. And I think one of the real learnings that I learned from Strala in terms of holding space was having an awareness of yourself within the class. So it wasn't, I think before I was all on the other side of the street, all about sort of looking after my client, just finding what they needed, their modifications, and I was sort of ignoring my own self in a way. So wasn't really feeling into what felt right for me on that day, whether that pose was right for me to do on that day, or maybe I hadn't warmed up enough to be doing such an extreme back bend or something. And I think it gave me this awareness of there's a whole room and the clients are center stage and I'm holding space for them, but I'm also in the room, if you like, kind of walking around the circumference of it, and I'm important too. And I think the way you best lead somebody to that, their inner wisdom, is by them seeing you doing that for yourself. So if I'm making good choices for myself in terms of what poses I'm choosing for myself, then my client will automatically, or clients will automatically do that. And rather than me saying to them, breathe slow and deep, if I actually relax and soften and breathe slow and deep, they feel that way deeper than they hear those words, and then they too start to soften, relax, slow down, and breathe slowly and deeply. So I think that was a real learning point that I already had bedded in place as a yoga guide before I came to you. And then, as you say, once I came and took your course, which was really so much about, it was about holding space, the first one I took, and then the next one had huge components in it, and the next, I've taken many courses now with Annemiek and love them all. And just having that time with you to focus on holding space and what it means to hold space. So I've got a much deeper understanding of what holding space means. And I think I've improved my skills in holding space, incredibly through your course. So yeah, thank you.
You're
Been
welcome.
really great.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. And I'm sure that people watching are now kind of curious about how you what is that
What
look
is
like, or what does it mean? Like what's changed?
okay, for me, in talking in terms of a yoga class, in terms of holding space in a yoga class, what I'm really focusing on is creating this space where people feel safe, where they feel fully received exactly as they are. And that's a really easy thing to sort of just chuck out there and say, but to actually do it where you can be in the room and have no judgments and let the clients feel that, so that they know that they need be nothing other than they are themselves. That's a real skill and an art, I think, and that's something I've really been able to do much more easily now through you. And I don't think I'd realized before I took your course what a phenomenal healing power that is. You know, being able to give a client space, holding space in that way, is an amazing gift in terms of, you know, de-stressing, reducing, you know, cortisol levels, and allowing them to find this place of relaxation where they can really start to heal themselves on a physical level, but also on an emotional and mental level. So I think that's, for me, mostly what holding space is about, providing the safe space where people can be received exactly as they are, with a phenomenal healing power attached to it.
Mm. Yeah, and I think what you're touching on here is, you know, we have these 6 guidelines in holding space, right? And when I'm listening to you, it reminds me again about how so much of this work and honing your skills in this way is about learning to discern like what the differences are when we are holding space and when we're maybe not holding space in this way, and what is actually required to fully receive people exactly as they are. Because as you say, it's an easy phrase to say, but it's another thing to do that and to not vanish in at the same time, right? To bring all of that together.
Yes, and I mean, certainly, I mean, I think beforehand, I would have maybe come into the room and I would have my very clear idea of what class I'm teaching. I would have all these teaching points that I thought I wanted to get across. And I had a very clear idea of what I was imparting to my client. And now it's less about that, so much less about that. And I definitely have, I'm a flow yoga teacher, so I definitely have a flow in mind. I definitely have some ideas of some things I might like to share, but they're never fixed in stone. And I'm not attached to the outcome of what particularly comes out of the yoga class. By that, I mean, I'm definitely looking to try to get my client to nail a pose, you know, and I'm far less about saying left hand needs to go here, right hand needs to go here, yeah, move that leg back a bit, up a bit, you know, and that's a kind of fixing from the outside. And that has really gone for me now in terms of holding space for a client. So now I would be guiding them back, as I say, to their inner wisdom, so that they would then feel into a pose from the inside out and really feel what's right for them in that moment. And that could change from day to day to day. And I'm allowing space for them to, yeah, feel into the pose, space between the breath and space, just space in which that they can experience it for themselves rather than me telling them what I think they should be experiencing in that pose.
And so to me personally, that sounds divine. And there are also people who are thinking like, but how do I know what I'm supposed to do? You're the
I think yeah, I see that, I hear that, and I think if you were sometimes someone just looking, say, through the window and the door into my class, they might see that I'm not really on top of my clients, fixing and correcting them, and I think they might make a judgment then that I'm not interested in alignment. And nothing could be further than the truth. I'm extremely interested in alignment, but I don't think alignment comes by viewing a client as a whole load of isolated body parts that you just put into place. And what I'm hoping to do is to enable them to feel it for themselves and move as their whole self. So they're moving as one piece, and I'm guiding them to move from their center. So from kind of the belly and hips, if you're flowing from your center, your limbs will then fall into the right place. They'll fall into the right alignment for them if they are moving in harmony with themselves. So alignment really matters, but it's coming from the inside out rather than me taking little bits of them and trying to fix them. Does that make
my body responds in a kind of like I'm already wanting to move, just kind of you having speaking the words is like, it's like a gorgeous.
Thank you.
So there's like this yeah, this I was going to say almost this animal part of me that's like, that feels so invited to go and find out.
Yeah.
Is that what your clients report back to you?
Yeah, there is, and it feels natural to them. I think a lot of it is getting clients to the point where they actually believe what they feel for themselves. I think so often a client is looking to the teacher with all the answers, and I think once you can build enough confidence in the client so that they can believe what they're feeling for themselves and take time to experience it and then respond in a way that's favorable for themselves. So they're not just sort of, I don't know, forcing themselves into some forward fold that doesn't suit them that day, but they'll feel that their body's resisting and they'll just back out of it, get into their comfort zone, soften there. And from there, so much more is possible. So yeah, I would say that.
Beautiful. And I can start to see, like, because I've been in yoga rooms, but always as the client. And so
yeah,
I'm starting to hear how what we're doing in the coaching work is flowing into that yoga room
yes,
with you, which is really excited to hear more.
so much. Yes. And I think one of the ones, I think I'd never thought before I took your course about one of the other principles, which is let go of judgment. And I would, as I'm sure most yoga teachers would say, is that, oh, well, I'm not judgmental, I'm very nice, I'm very kind, and,
very kind.
We never think we're being judgmental, but I think we can be, even though we don't realize that we are being, and nor would we want to be. And I think in a yoga class, what that really has turned out that it's boiled down for me is being really clear and meticulous about the language that I use in a class. And I think whereas in the past, in fact, you still hear a lot of yoga teachers say this to this day, you might say, well, if you're giving some options, you might say something like, well, take this option or take this option, or for the fullest expression of the pose, take this option. And there's a judgment implied within that. It's like, it's this one or this one. And if you can't quite do this one, then you're not quite up to it yet, and I would never use that expression now. All the options I would treat equally. So I would just say, take this one, or this one. There's another phrase you often hear in classes where a teacher might say something like, take this option, or if it's not within your repertoire, take this option. So take, I don't know, a forearm handstand, but if it's not within your repertoire, take dolphin or downward facing dog. And again, this not within your repertoire, there's a judgment within that, it's like, well, you haven't got that.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't gotten there yet. Yeah.
You haven't gotten there yet, and you may never get there yet. It may never be in your repertoire. So I would just be very meticulous about my language nowadays. And I wouldn't, again, I'd offer take down dog, take dolphin, or take a handstand, or whatever it is. I wouldn't add these other slightly judgmental words in, but it's very subtly judgmental. But I think there is a lot of that. If you're not careful, it just creeps in. And I know for myself, I've felt judged within when I've gone to yoga classes. Sometimes I'm probably 20 years older than a lot of the 20, 30-year-olds in a class, and quite often, if I just pop up, if I'm a holiday, I'll just pop up in someone's yoga class, and quite often the teacher will say something like, oh, I didn't know you'd be that strong, or you're incredibly strong, and you're and it's nice. But on the other hand, it's a judgment that at my age, nobody was ever expecting me to perform the more advanced poses or the stronger poses, or, and I think there's a judgment there. And I think I've always felt a bit sensitive to that. And so I really love this idea of letting go of all judgment of any kind, you know.
Beautiful.
And of course, there's the much bigger current issues as well, you know, today that we've all, you know, we all want to work up, you know, being better at. So yeah, I think letting go of judgment in every form is absolutely the way to go.
Yeah, beautiful. What a beautiful example. And I can so it's like it's like sometimes this practice of holding space is very much in the details, isn't it? It's about little
Yeah,
things that are just not completely in alignment with that intention that you have.
yeah.
Like picking up on those little things, and these are going to be different for everyone. It's like this.
Yeah, and I think with your course, it was about having the time and the depth of, you know, really time to look into all of that, and then getting it and then applying it to my own life and my own work, and, you know, and as you say, being in alignment with the way that I want to be in the world. So yeah, amazingly helpful, you know.
Yeah, and I think just kind of expanding on that guideline of letting go of judgment. We all, and if you want to know more when you're watching, there's an ebook on our website that you can download on the academyforsoulbasedcoaching.com that talks you through all of them. But an aspect of that letting go of judgment is also like, we're not saying human beings can ever be free of judgments, because that's just not how our psyches work. It's part of a healthy functioning psyche to be able to make judgments. But the thing is that we're so attached to those judgments, and that they influence us in so many different ways that we're not always very aware of. So the practice in holding space that we focus on is on recognizing where we are having judgments, either about other people or about yoga poses or about ourselves in that space, or, you know, in the coaching space. And really starting to kind of notice where that like knee-jerk response kind of comes up within you, and then kind of looking at that with compassion, and just and starting to recognize where that happens, and maybe where we could let go of that a little bit, or a little bit more, or a little bit more.
Yeah, I felt that too. It was like you shone this sort of torchlight on judgment that I'd never even thought about before, you know, and it just really raised my awareness about the whole thing. And yeah, and it's a learning curve, you know. It's been a learning curve for me, and just I think I've got gradually better and better at it, and I hope to still get better and better at it.
Well, exactly, and this is why it's you know, when we're doing our year-long certification course, this is very much part of our ongoing practice, right? This is kind of what we dip into, and when I look at myself, I've been practicing like very specifically practicing holding space for 10 years now, every week. And it's like there's always more layers that are opening up when you stay with that awareness within yourself, and it can't help but ripple out into the work that you do. And yeah, yoga teaching is just like that. So I just wanted to check with you, because you've mentioned a few of the guidelines already. So letting go of judgment, letting go of letting go of specific outcomes, right? You certainly have an intention for your classes, but like it sounds like you found a way of moving more freely with the flow of what's happening in the room.
Yeah, I think I have a theme for the class, so I know what that, you know, theme is, but I am within that much more free and much more using my intuition as to where I'm going to take it, in terms of looking at who I've got in the room with me. And actually the themes have probably changed. The themes are less about nailing poses, and my themes are much more likely to be something like now home, or, you know, coming home to yourself, or they might be something like simple, where we're again just getting back to this very simple way of moving from center. I'm trying to think what other class themes, but they're much more internal themes, really, something you're feeling within yourself, and then that is providing the impulse for the movement in a way. And it's that kind of way round that really works, and that's when I see my clients really transform, and that's when my clients will tell me that they really feel the difference, that it's coming from a different place now within them. And I was just thinking, one of the other parts, I suppose, of holding space is that being present, and that's another one of your principles, in fact. And I think that is something that I'm really bringing in as a theme. I mean, I'm doing it for myself, staying present with what's actually happening in the room at that moment. So I'm definitely doing that, or practicing that as a guide, but often my themes are about that too, so that people are really staying present within themselves. So they're not getting into the stories in their heads as to how this pose should look, or whatever kind of story might be popping up in their head, but instead that they're just really coming back to themselves, getting really grounded, really settled, really allowing themselves the time to feel what they feel, and to, does it feel good? Do I want to breathe, exhale and take that a little further? Do I want to back out of the pose? You know, is today a good day for me to do this? Or maybe actually I don't want to do some handstand. Actually, what I'd like to do is spend 5 minutes in child's pose, because that's would serve me better. And it's giving people the freedom to really be present with themselves and know what's going on within them to make those right choices. And if you can do that, all we're doing really in the yoga class, if we're practicing that within the 1 hour, 1.5 hours, or whatever, what the yoga class is, what we're really doing is teaching ourselves to do this everywhere. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? You know, we're doing it to be like this all the time in life, make these good choices for ourselves. So we have to really learn how to connect with ourselves so that we can then go out and connect with others, connect with the universe. And for me, where I train myself, if you like, to do that is within the yoga class. You know, that's where I learn, or where I get with others how to do that.
Beautiful. Thank you for giving us such a clear flavor of what that looks like, and how the practice of holding space has informed you. And so I know there's more to share, but maybe for this video, we're going to wrap it up. And just let people know that if you want to know more about Jenny, go and find her. We will tag her in the video in the comments below. And also, if you want to know about the courses that she took with the Academy for Soul-Based Coaching, she started with the Feminine in Coaching course, the 8-week foundational program, and then moved on to the certification program for a certified soul-based coach, which is called Invoke Your Client's Magic. Just so that you know what to look for. And of course, if you have any questions to me, to Jenny, please pop them in the comments as well. And we're happy to have a chat there. All right. Thank you so much, Jenny, for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, super welcome. And see you all again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.